Abhishek is the founder of It's FOSS, which is a online group, and uh, and today he's going to give a presentation on GNOME and the customization of the GNOME desktop. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yep. Okay, you got it.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for having me here uh, among the Boston Linux user group. So this is going to be a short presentation and very focused on the user side of GNOME extensions. I'm not going to show you how you can create GNOME extensions because that is more on the developer side of thing. I'll be just showing how you as a user, as an end user, can use GNOME extensions to customize your desktop, extend the functionality of your desktop so that you can use it for your as per your requirement, as per your needs. So I have a um, sort of like slides in a PDF, and I also have recorded videos because I wasn't sure that and usually the network lags, so a direct demo would have been a bit difficult. So I recorded some videos so that I can demo uh, these steps to you, and then we can all discuss it. I'll I'll go and start the screen sharing. I hope it works because it my system is using WLAN, and I'm not sure WLAN does screen sharing very properly, but I'll try anyways.
Okay.
All right, I think the sharing works then. All right, this is just very basic slides. Like I didn't know how to proceed with it, so I presented it in a like PowerPoint presentation format. So this is the agenda we will be having today, which is like what kind of customization option GNOME Desktop has, why GNOME extension, what are GNOME extension and what do they do, how you can install GNOME extension, and what things you should know about using GNOME extension. And then I'll be showing 20 of my favorite GNOME extension that does a specific job. So this is all we are going to discuss today, and it will not take a lot of time of your time. So I hope everything goes fine in next 15 minutes or something. This is what I'm hoping for, that we wrap it up in 15-20 minutes, but it could go beyond that, and then we can discuss it afterwards. So, what kind of customization options do GNOME Desktop has? Of course, the regular things like you can change wallpapers, themes, icons, and everything. So, the second thing is changing the dock, the launcher, which you often see, these things in the left hand side, those things. And of course there's a tool called GNOME Tweaks, which allows you to further customize your GNOME desktop to You know, you can change the window positioning, change the mouse and touchpad behavior. You can do several things with that. And then come GNOME extensions. So what exactly are GNOME extension? Like um, these are like the like add-ons, plugins, which are written by third-party developers, and they extend the functionality of GNOME desktop in a certain way. For example, the vanilla GNOME desktop does not have the applet indicator which you usually find on the top panel. So if you are using an application like Dropbox or Spotify that rely heavily on this applet indicator from where you can easily access them, this functionality is missing in the recent version of GNOME Desktop. They don't have it anymore. So one example of the usability of GNOME extension is that the end user, that is you, can install an extension and get this functionality back. So you can think of them as the web browser add-ons or extension or plugins, where the main web browser has certain functionality, and then you enhance its functionality by adding those plugins, those extensions. You can think of GNOME extension in the same way. In fact, I just showed you an example that how useful and necessary can GNOME extension be, and often you will be using them to get something that is crucial or that is something useful to your desktop needs. Okay, I'll just quickly show some extension installation example. So I recorded these videos previously. So there is a extensions.gnome.org website, which is the official website for GNOME Shell extension. And this is where you can find a lot of GNOME extension. And here, actually, the GNOME extension are installed through the web browser primarily. So if you're using Chrome or Firefox or any other web browser, you should go and install a browser add-on that will enable you to install GNOME extension from the browser. So if when you install the extension and refresh the page, you might see this message that no app native application found, like this package is missing, the gnome.chrome gnome cell. So based on your Linux distribution, what you can do is you can use your distributions package manager and install the Chrome GNOME shell package. These are like the two requirements of using GNOME extension. You should have the browser add-on and you should have this package called Chrome GNOME shell. Once you have both of these requirements ready on your system, okay, so I had shown you how the browser add-on was installed, and now the package is installed as well. So now you can see that it doesn't complain about anything. And if you go, let's go to an extension page, you can see the option that okay, it is already installed, so it is in on position, and then you have the option to either delete it or configure it. So I just deleted it, and if you toggle the button on, you will see that it gives you the option that okay, the extension is being installed. like so so here, if you turn it on, you are basically installing the extension on your system through the web browser. This is how officially GNOME shell extension work. They work through the web browser. Let's go to this interface again and see how we can use the GNOME shell extension website. So when you visit this website, I mean, there are hundreds of GNOME shell extensions. You can sort them by popularity, download, name, relevance, filter them as you want. You can also sort them with the compatibility with the GNOME version. So this is a actually noticeable thing that when you have when you're visiting this GNOME shell extension website, since you have the browser add-on, the website knows which GNOME version you're running, and it will show if your extensions are compatible or not. Otherwise, you can also check the like which version a particular extension supports from this button, where it's like, okay, you can see how many downloads are there, and you can also see which GNOME versions the extensions support. And then based on that information, you can decide whether or not you want to install the extension. All right, let's go back to installing again. I mean, you already saw it, but well, why not? Because you will be coming across a lot of recommendations on extensions from different website or different users. So you can look for the extension on the website, and let's say that I want this clipboard indicator, which actually enables to have a history of the clipboard, so that if something was copied in the past, you can reuse it after like several control C control V. So yeah, if just have to turn it on, and then you will see this dialog box. Okay, you click on the install and it will be installed, and you can see the clipboard indicator is now installed. If you refresh the page, you will see that the same page now gives you the option of configuring the clipboard indicator right from that page. And you will also get this cross button, which is used for deleting an installed extension. So you can just turn it off, or you can enable disable it, or you can remove it completely this way. Please let me know if I'm speaking too fast or if I'm not easily understandable. I'll try to speak more clearly. Okay. Sorry. Any feedback?
It's interesting. I do that myself, and I like to see new extensions and how people are using them.
Great. All right. Thank you for your feedback. So I just showed that the official way of using the GNOME extension is through the official website. This is what GNOME recommends. But there is an unofficial app which works excellent. I mean, it's like you don't need to go through the web browser and install the web browser add-on or anything. This is an unofficial app, but I wanted the users to know that okay, This is something, actually it makes things quite more user friendly, because you have a unified application where you can see what system extension, what extension are installed by the distribution itself, and then what extension have been installed by the user. You can browse the extensions as you are browsing them on the website. You can install them. You can configure or manage them from this single interface, as well as you can also check if those extensions will be supported in a newer GNOME version if you have to upgrade to a newer version of the distribution and GNOME. In fact, I consider that this is something that GNOME should provide as an official app. Let me show it to you through a recorded video. All right. So this is the plugin is called, the application is called Extension Manager, and as you can see, it shows different user installed extensions here. If you toggle the buttons, they will be disabled, but not uninstalled, just disabled here. And if you see this gear up icon, this means you can configure those extensions and change their preferences. And at the bottom, you can see system extensions, which are the extensions installed by the distribution itself. This is an unofficial application, as I mentioned earlier, and I think this is something that should be officially provided by GNOME. So you can see the details, or you can just go and browse as if you were browsing on the website itself. So you have the relevance, you can sort through number of downloads, relevance, or the name. And if you click on the app, on the extensions, it will show the details that you see on the website, like number of downloads and the user reviews. It's very similar to what you see on the GNOME Software Center. And when you install, it installs in the same fashion as if you were installing the extension from the official website. It actually fetching everything from the official website, putting them in a pretty interface. So there was this thing that I was talking about is the upgrade assistant. That means if you're using let's say Fedora 40 and there's Fedora 41 with a newer GNOME version, it will say, okay, if you are using GNOME 41 and you'll be upgrading to GNOME 46, what are the extensions that will be supported in the newer version? And then you can decide whether you want the extension to be available in the newer version or not. So if an extension is really crucial to your workflow that you cannot live without, or you would like to have them, you can defer the decision of upgrading to a newer version just by looking at just using this upgrade assistant feature in the in the extension manager application. This is a very neat feature that not many people know about it. This is why I specifically created a video around it, so that okay, people are aware of this useful feature. Let's go to okay. um Things you should know about using extensions. GNOME extensions are like browser add-ons or the apps you use on your phone, something like that. These are third-party small codes, And so you shouldn't just install anything and everything. You should have something. um, First thing first, you should not install too many GNOME extension. You know, like you came across some recommendation, even if you do not need it, you just install it. So if you install like 25, 30 extensions, your desktop performance will start to hamper, because as you start your system, the GNOME shell starts, the extensions will also get to start at the same time, and then there will be performance issue, in my opinion. What you should actually focus more on the version compatibility, because extensions are created by third-party developer. They might not be always updated. So there's if you're using GNOME 46, the current version right now, some of the extensions which are very popular, but the developer doesn't have time to, you know, update the extension to the newer version, may not work. So if an old extension was very popular, but the developers stopped updating the extension after GNOME version 42, you are likely, the extension may work in the new version, it may also not work. So that is something you should keep in mind. So if it is possible, choose the extension that is compatible with your currently installed GNOME version. If you really want the functionality of the extension and it is not supported for your current GNOME version, please check that if there is an alternative newer extension of the similar kind. On that end, you should also read reviews of from other users, and you will often find some information, essential information, that okay, this extension is also working in the newer version, or if the extension is not working anymore. No. And when you try these things, you should also try to leave your own reviews, because this is how the community is formed. You are sharing your experience and views that actually helps other to have a better experience with, reading your experience and your uses. So it actually helps and improve the usability of the extension and this ecosystem better if you leave your own reviews. And as I said, the next point is, do not install too many unnecessary extensions. I mean, install as many as you want, which are actually useful for you, but just don't come across all the recommendations, and then you just start installing all those extensions, even if you do not need them. Some extensions may conflict with other extensions. This is rare, but it could happen that if one extension, if you install multiple extensions of the same time, they might conflict, or they might conflict with some other kind of extension. Usually this kind of information is reflected on the detailed page of the extension, on the description of the extension. Or sometimes users also leave reviews that okay, this extension is not compatible with the other extension installed. uh, since you are changing the desktop behavior through third party extensions, it is rare, but it is possible that something goes wrong, there is some conflict, and then your GNOME desktop is a bit messed up. That means okay, some part of GNOME is missing, some system settings are missing, and then you feel like okay, there's something missing, but I do not know how to fix it. You shouldn't use this command very casually, but if you're desperate, you can use this dconf reset -f root. This will reset all the settings, everything to default. it will try to do that. So if you had customized settings which you might wanted to keep it, you will lose it. But you will have the GNOME desktop back in the default condition. The GNOME tweaks tool also has this reset to default option. I could actually show. So when you have too many tweaks, you can try resetting to default. This is an option. It may work, it may not work, but it's worth a try. And if nothing works, what I have always found working, at least in Ubuntu, is that you can reinstall the GNOME desktop using just apt install dash dash reinstall GNOME desktop option. This is also another way to get the default GNOME desktop back in the default condition, default situation. So these are the things which you should keep in mind when you are trying to use extensions. And sorry. Okay. This will take like 10 minutes or so, or maybe more. I'll show you my recommended GNOME extensions. And I'll also try to explain what they do. So please bear with me. Yeah. Uh, Anyone has any questions so far? Any suggestions? Any questions?
I thought it was very useful.
Thank you.
I haven't installed the extension manager. I'm going to do that later, probably tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll like it. I have the feeling. All right. Um, let's go to no. I'll let me show you some of my favorite extensions. So the first one, I'm using the extension manager in this demo video. So one of the extension is the app indicator and case status notification. This is very useful for uh, when you are using the vanilla GNOME like in Fedora or SUS, because in Ubuntu you have this top indicator already installed. Everything will be installed if you use Dropbox or clipboard indicator. But in vanilla GNOME you won't have this feature. The applet indicator will be missing. So this is a a good extension to use if you're using vanilla GNOME. The second is auto move windows. This is a very useful extension if you are heavily utilizing the workspace feature. What it does is you can organize applications in workspace. So you assign certain applications to a specific workspace, and when you open those applications, they will be opening in the same workspace they are assigned to. This helps when you're like very particular about organizing your workflow. So you organ like if you are into coding and stuff, you want the code editor, the terminal, and other stuff in a particular workspace, and the browser and other normal utility on another workspace. So you can just assign those applications to workspaces, and whenever you just open those uh, applications, they will be opened in the designated workspace.
Yeah,
So the
that's one of my
next
favorites.
yeah, I knew there will be someone who loves using the GNOME workspaces. They are actually very useful feature. I use them as well to separate the focused works thing and the regular computing stuff. The next extension is arc menu, and this is for those people who miss the classic GNOME 2 from 2011 before that. So the menu, the arc menu will actually give you the menu which you used to see in the classic GNOME on the top left corner and access from there. And you can also, change the layout of through the extension manager of this start menu. The next one, fourth option, is caffeine. I think if you have been using um Linux desktop for a long time, you probably have heard of this. This is a very old but very popular extension and does a very simple job. And that simple job is to keep your desktop active. It does not let it go into sleep or suspend. So when you're working on something that requires the computer to be, open for a longer time, but you do not want to change the power setting to always not go into suspend and something. So you keep the regular behavior as it is, and then you use caffeine to not let go, to not let your desktop go into sleep or suspend for a certain time period. This is a handy app, and it has been on the scene for more than 14 years, I think. I'm just guessing. The next is Clipboard Manager, and I guess I already showed you this in the previous demo video of installing GNOME extension. So actually, I find the Clipboard Manager, any kind of Clipboard Manager, very handy because when you're copying things, you Control C, it is in your clipboard history. And if you forget Control V, or if even if you utilized it, it just goes away. Imagine that you copied something, then copied something else, then copied something else. Then you realize, okay, what I copied earlier, like three or four, you know, steps earlier, I need that, and then you don't have that. This is where clipboard indicator or clipboard manager comes in handy. So this way you do not lose the history of your clipboard. So you will have like a history of what you copied previously, and then you can go through them and you can get it back. There's also a private mode so that if you are copying, let's say, password or something sensitive, you can switch the private mode and those entries will not be saved in the clipboard history. This is a neat app. I mean, I like it. On the next uh, extension on my list is extension list. Okay, that's a wordplay, but I just used it. Basically, like what you were doing in the extension manager, everything on to some extent can be done through this extension list. So this is just an applet indicator on the top, and you can use it to quickly access the settings and quickly access the installed extensions on your system. This is for people who want everything, right in the face, like for quickly accessing everything. So you can enable, disable, or configure extensions, and it will actually open everything in the extension manager. The next entry is places status indicator, which is actually like kind of part of the classic GNOME. What it does is it will just give you a quick access to your directories like home, documents, downloads, and everything on the top menu. That's just it's tiny thing, but some people like it that way. The next extension is quite very vital. It's called Vitals, and it will give you a quick look on the system resource utilization on the top panel, and you can, if you click on it, you can see even more details like the temperature, the fan speed, storage, and everything, depending upon what your system supports. But this is a quick way of keeping an eye on the system resource utilization. The next extension is media control. Newer GNOME version already has it, but for that you will have to go in the message tray. But what this extension does, it will give the media controls right on the top panel. You don't have to go to the message tray and then open it. Uh, Another is the QS tweak, which basically allows you to add new things in the system, the quick access setting here. Actually, it's a bit old. In the newer GNOME version, you have the option to change the theme, like dark style or the light style, in the quick access settings here. But previously it was possible through this QS tweak extension. So if you're using uh, an older GNOME version where you do not have this functionality, you can use this extension and tweak this quick settings here. Uh, the next extension is status area horizontal spacing, which is for, if you are too fond of extension and you have too many extensions in the applet indicator area, so everything will be filled up. So what you can do is you can change this horizontal padding, like, so that, okay, if there are too many applet indicators, maybe you want them close by so that you can have a look at them in just one look. So this is handy when you have too many extensions installed. The next is Blur Myself, which is very popular extension among the people who like to customize their desktop for the looks and then share it on different platforms on Reddit and Twitter. What it does is very simple. You install this extension, you enable it, and then it just changes the transparency of the top panel. So it makes the desktop look pretty actually, and this is just for the looks. That is the actual intention of the extension. It's just to blur the shell and make it transparent. The next extension, the 13th extension, is removable drive menu. So when you have USB devices plugged in or the disk mounted, it will show the option to eject or open the mounted drive on the top panel. This is handy when you have to quickly access the mounted drives. The next extension is actually purely for the visuals, nothing else. So this is another kind of menu which is like this. Okay, you may not find it very intriguing, but some people like it, so they like these beautiful extensions, beautiful animation, and then how it interact with the installed applications. So instead of using the typical GNOME application menu, you have this like a pie chart where you go and interact with the applications. It's it's just visual treat, nothing really useful, but good to have like that. um, the next extension is Workspace Switcher Manager, which, if you use it in conjugation with the earlier extension I showed, could work wonders because it allows you to rename your workspaces. So you can name the workspace like terminal applications or work related, and then you can easily see if you want, which workspace you want to switch to. And then another popular extension is the dash to dock, which is like this is actually installed by default in Ubuntu. So it gives you the dock at the bottom, which is always visible, and you can customize it. Ubuntu has it installed by default, and this is what gives the launcher feature in Ubuntu. Similarly, there is dash to panel, which actually is something very similar, but when you enable it, it will bring the top panel and integrate it inside the dash, inside the dock. So you have a like Windows kind of or KDE styled uh, dock at the bottom, and everything is at bottom. Even those top panel things, system settings, and everything comes down to the bottom. So this is one way of customizing your GNOME desktop. Um, Another thing is when you're changing the themes and icons, that there's a part called shell themes. That means this part controls the desktop notifications and all the other things. So but you won't be able to install it very you won't be able to change the shell themes until you have the user themes installed. So when that happens, you can change the shell to your theme. The next extension is systemd manager. Most of the Linux distribution these days they use systemd. So this GUI tool actually allows you to create new services and enable or disable them through this graphical user interface and control them as well. This is for people who want to utilize the systemd features, but they don't want to go into the terminal. All right, we are almost coming to the end of the list. The next one is just perfection, which is another extension for modifying the looks rather than the features. So it's just for changing the various elements of the user interface of your GNOME desktop. The next is Astra Monitor, which is similar to the Vital extension we saw earlier. This one is more. This one gives more details for the each items than what we saw in Vitals. This is also a good way to keep an eye on your system resource uses, and it's more visual. And the last one is actually very silly, but it could actually be useful for people who do not like to see this clock in the middle. So what it does is, once you enable this extension, it will move the clock to the right side. Just does that. But as I said, for someone who doesn't want the calendar and the time, the clock in the middle, they can use this extension and move it to the right side.
It's one of my favorites.
Do you use it?
Yep,
Ah, nice.
I've got it right.
All right.
I've been
So,
using it for years.
ah,
One of my
nice.
first extensions that I installed.
Okay, very good. I thought it will be a surprise to people here, but I guess that's not the case because you guys are already very advanced in these things. Nice. Okay,
I'm a
so we are
software
coming to
engineer.
the. I was a software engineer as well for like 7 8 years. I don't do any software development anymore, but I can understand. I mean, the the constant actually need or the habit of changing things to to go to the extra length to try new things. Okay. this is the last slide, which is like just going through what we already saw, just to summarize them. That GNOME extension or an integral part of GNOME ecosystem, and they allow you to use your system more effectively and as per your need and liking, so that you can customize the looks and even tweak its feature as per your need and as per your requirement. What you should do is you should use the official GNOME extension website. You should always install extension from the official GNOME extension website or use the extensions manager app. And try and not try not getting extensions from GitHub or other places, because uh, GNOME extensions website has some sort of security check on their website. So the extensions coming from their website are actually vetted for obvious bugs or security issues. And then, as I mentioned previously as well, just don't install any extension that is recommended or you come across on websites or in community forums, and then you just start installing everything and you have like 30-35 extensions and something like that installed. It will not be useful and it will hamper the performance of your system. And please keep in mind that if there is a conflict and your GNOME desktop system settings are messed up, there are some troubleshooting options of resetting or reinstalling the GNOME desktop. And in the end, don't forget to enjoy GNOME desktop as you always do. Alright, this is the end. I'll just stop sharing it, my screen.
That was a great presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love that. Another one that I do is I put I use Frippery panels, and I put all my panel right in the top bar. I have a very busy top bar. I have all my apps up there, and then I don't have bottom panel that takes up space. But
Yeah,
everybody has their own needs and desires. And I mentioned I do have the extension manager. I just forgot about it.
yeah, this extension manager app is really
Yeah,
very good, and I'm just surprised why GNOME does not have an official extension, official tool of this kind. Because it's really useful to have everything at one place and just see what applications are installed and how to quickly access them.
Some weird fights early in GNOME's history. I remember there were some big issues where there were a lot of features that the long-time users really depended on, and they were being taken out in all the GNOME stuff. And the leaders of the GNOME project were saying that new users don't need those, so there's no need to keep them in. And it didn't matter that they were breaking for everyone else. One
yeah.
really horrible response I remember was one developer, I can't remember his name, who was complaining about it was the thing about the focus follows mouse. And I don't know how he could be so oblivious to what he was saying, but in response to my message, and I guess other people complain about it, he says, "I'll tell you the same thing I've told the other 10,000 people who complain about this. Nobody wants that feature."
And I said that's bullshit because I always use that.
And this is where
I mean,
GNOME extension help
Yep.
us.
what I found unbelievable was he could actually say with a straight face that 10,000 people are complaining about this, and he could he could still maintain that nobody wants it.
Well,
I have a question. So
go ahead.
in the unofficial app, the desktop app, there was the you showed how it can tell you whether the versions of your extensions are compatible with the versions of GNOME. Can that update the extensions? Can you do that through the app, or do you have to re-download them?
No, you can update the extensions. I mean, if there's an update available on the extensions manager can update those extensions. So this application is very useful for like maintaining your extension as well. If there are updates, you will see that there is an option to update them. Those that upgrade assistant is for the case where you have to upgrade the GNOME version, and then you have to check that if the installed extension has a newer version that is compatible with the new version or not. And when you install upgrade everything, you can also upgrade your extension through the manager.
And I saw that there were some extensions included with your distribution by default. Are those managed by the system's package manager? Like, if you didn't have the extension manager, how would those get updated? Because I
They
imagine a
are
lot of users don't have the
uh,
extension manager but are using GNOME.
they will be updated through the system, like system updates through your package manager app update. If there is an update, it will be provided by the distribution.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we got that answered. A lot of times, especially if you upgrade as soon as a new release of GNOME comes out, or a new release of, in my case, Fedora comes out, a lot of times most of the extensions are going to fail. Usually it takes a developer a day or two to fix that. Every extension actually has a date on it, and you can actually go into the code and actually make changes to it to make it work. But I wouldn't recommend that unless you're a little bit of a developer. It's mostly written in oh, what's the code? I forget the name of the language. Senior moment.
Would that be Rust?
No, it's not Rust.
No, no.
No.
It's I think it's JavaScript
Java,
mostly.
JavaScript. It's pretty easy to do, um, and if you mess it up, you can delete it. Um, I've actually had one that was misbehaving, and I couldn't delete it through the website. Now, this is a long time ago, and I actually went to the source and actually deleted it there. It's in user share. Uh,
Yeah, user
it's in
share dot extensions as
Yeah,
something.
so it's in your home directory. So when you install it,
Yeah.
it's personal. So you could just navigate down there and find it and zap it if you want, or update it. Because as I mentioned, they all have a date and shell extension and shell, that they do, so you don't get a mismatch. And so that's what I do occasionally if I have a extension that I really, really love and want to work, and the developer hasn't updated it yet. I find that in Frippery a lot, which the move clock. What happened to my move clock? It moved while we are talking. I have it to the right of my one of my displays. I'll have to move it back. But I'm one of the guys that likes my clock on the right hand side.
Yeah, I have similar legacy issues with VI. I can't stand Vim because I started using VI back in 1983, so it was like the original BSD version of it. And with Vim has both there's a whole bunch of features missing that my fingers are just used to. It's like in my muscle memory. Plus, there's extra features in Vim that I know nothing about, and every once in a while I accidentally activate one and don't know how to deactivate it. So for probably 20 years now, I've been using NVI, which is basically a rebuilt version of the original BSD code. And I think the Fedora stopped maintaining that as of like version 15 or something like that. So I always need to get the source RPM and then rebuild it. And then I find out that there are libraries it depends on that are no longer being supported. So I have to track down versions of those. And it's really frustrating with each upgrade when it stops working.
Yeah, I learned Vi back, I think, in 78 or 79 time frame, 79 or 80 time frame. When you had a text-only terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Are there equivalents to these extensions on other desktop environments like KDE?
Don't use KDE much, but KDE is very vast in itself. But I'm not aware of KDE extensions as an uh, the same way we have it on GNOME. I don't think KDE has exact equivalent of extensions. I may be wrong, but I haven't come across them.
Yeah, I'm not a KDE user. The last time I used it, I had it on my laptop and was doing some testing, and I didn't see anything, but I hadn't really looked. Ed, can you answer that? You use KDE? No, Ed fell asleep. Oh, there he is.
Okay, just trying to get the noise, trying to get the noise cancellation on the mic. I actually don't use any extensions with KDE, so I'm not sure if there's any, excuse me, any that are available.
KDE itself is very versatile. I think it allows you to tweak and the looks and all the settings in KDE itself. So this is why you don't really need like a third-party extension just for tweaking something in KDE. They are like by default you can tweak a lot of things in KDE from the settings itself. I guess that is one of the reasons why you don't see extension ecosystem in KDE. This is my personal opinion.
I think the last time I touched KDE was like more than 15 years ago. At the time, it was way too heavy for my machines.
Yeah, I
Never
just took a look at. There are extensions to KDE. I just posted it in the chat in the KDE store. I haven't looked at them, and again, I don't use. I used to be a heavy KDE user about 20 years ago when I used SUSE. I haven't used SUSE quite a while since they went to KDE 4. Anyway, thank you very much, Abhishek. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here.
Learn
Thank you
some
for
stuff
having me
there.
here.
Appreciate it.
Oh, Abhishek, would it be possible for you to send us a copy of your slides and videos so we could post them on our website?
Sure, absolutely. I'll share it with you through email.
Sure.
I'll share it on Drive or someplace and share it with you.
Okay, I'll put my email address in the chat here.
I think you were in the original discussion. No?
Oh
Or
yeah,
if not, I'll share. I'll
He
share
was
it
on the
with you
email that
anyways.
I shared with you. So,
okay.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll go for my morning run now, and
oh,
you guys can enjoy
stay
your
fit.
evening.
Stay fit.
Have fun
Have
and
a good
Thank
be
day.
you.
careful. To eat.
You too. You guys
Have a good day.
enjoy.
Have a good time in Vietnam. Where are you going in
Thank you.
Vietnam?
To Hanoi, and the names are a bit difficult to pronounce. Dong.
Dong Ha?
I forgot the name. Yeah, probably the one where there's this bridge with the hands holding and something. And there's also a beach town somewhere there.
Yeah. There's some good, very, very good beaches in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And we actually dropped some soldiers off on the beach. They immediately stripped and went into the water. So that, even though that they showed that in a movie, we've
Mhm.
actually seen that.
I think I remember that from that TV show, China Beach.
Well, I never watched China Beach, but China Beach was up in the Chulai area, a little bit north of where I was. Not far, not very far, but I was a little bit south of it. I was in a place called LZ English.
Yeah, the show kind of felt like a reboot of MASH, although I think the original MASH was a lot better. At least I enjoyed the original one a lot more.
Well, MASH was the Korean War.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
It was still basically metagame in it, so I'm sure it was
Yeah.
inspired by it.
Yeah, it was based on the guy who wrote the book was a real doctor in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
It was based on some of his experiences.
Okay.
All right, people. So thank you for
Okay,
having me. I
thank you
will
very
just
much.
head
Have
out.
a good run.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
You
you
too.
too.